Hi, grade sixes. So today I'm going to be talking to you about challenges in human rights and the difference between a right and a responsibility. So usually people who concern themselves with challenges in human rights are what we call global citizens. So what is a global citizen? A global citizen is a person who wants to learn and take action on the world's biggest challenges. So what are some challenges that a global citizen might advocate for or against? Here are some examples. I have them in a list. This is not all of them, but this is a few examples. So they may advocate for or against poverty, sickness and disease, child labor. So, for example, underage children or younger children who are working for big corporations who do not have fair wages or good working conditions. That's what child labor would be addressing. Violence or unrest. So unrest meaning like maybe war due to political uprise. Food security. So people in developing countries not being able to access food. And human rights violations. So people not receiving their basic human rights, which we're going to kind of discuss more as we move through the lesson. So like I said before, these are just some of the rights that a global citizen would fight for. So why is being a global citizen important? So in the assignment, I have a video attached, which is of me reading a piece from In Our Hands. This is a scholastic book, and the book's focus is basically on all about being a global citizen, different organizations that help people in developing countries, and we're going to be coming back to it throughout the unit. So in the video, I'm reading reading a piece about why being a global citizen is important, and I also ask a question at the end of the video. So I'd like you to take some time and watch that video. It's very, very short, and just think about the question I'm asking and maybe some possible answers. So now we're going to get into rights and responsibilities, and what's the difference between those two things. So a right is something that we are entitled to, something that all human beings, regardless of your age, your race, your culture, your religion, are entitled to. So for example, one of the rights would be you have the right to go to school and get an education, or you have the right to having an identity. Those are examples of rights. A responsibility is connected to a right because it's something that you need to do in order to have this right. So if we're talking about school, an example of a responsibility that you would have because you have the right to go to school and get an education is that you'd be responsible to work hard and also not to interfere with the education of others. So even though rights and responsibilities are different, they are connected to each other. In the next slide, I do have some examples of other rights and responsibilities that we would mostly see at school, but it might give you a better idea of the difference and how they're connected if you're still not sure from those definitions. So on this poster, you will see that the rights are in red and the responsibilities are in purple. So the first one says you have the right to a safe environment. However, you have the responsibility to follow safety rules. You have a right to voice your opinion, and because of that, you are responsible to respect the opinions of others. You have the right to use school books, materials, and equipment, and because of that, you're responsible to take care of all of your school materials. You have the right to fair treatment, and because of this, you have the responsibility to treat others fairly. The last one says you have the right to a good education, and you have a responsibility to do your best, which is the example we would have seen in the last slide. So those are just some examples of rights and responsibilities that we would probably have at school. Now, there is kind of a list of rights that all people have that has been created by an organization called the United Nations, which we are going to discuss. So how do we protect people's rights? So some countries like Canada have documents that outline the basic rights of all their citizens. And these documents also include the rights of children and ensure that the government has looked after children in their countries. When we think about human rights, we must look beyond personal identities. We cannot look at people as students or athletes, or as boys or girls. We cannot look at people's height or weight, or their name or skin color. When we think about rights, we need to understand that all people should have the same basic human rights. So because there had been rights developed for all human beings, the United Nations actually created a separate document that specifically focuses on the right of a child. So in this case, a child is anyone from birth to the age of 18. That's who these rights would be protecting. This is what this document, this is who this document would be protecting. So when they developed this in 1989, which was about 30 years ago, Canada, along with several other countries, signed this convention. And I'm going to quickly show you this document. I'm not going to read it all because there are about 54 articles, so I'll probably just read a few at the top. And while I am reading this to you and you're looking at the document, I want you to think about how well you think Canada is doing at meeting these rights for children in our country. And this PDF that I'm going to show you, this picture, will be attached to your assignment so you can come back to it because we will be working with it in our next lesson. So here is what we call the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And I'm going to read kind of blurb in here. I know it might be hard to see. When you look at your own copy, maybe increase the size of it so you can read these more carefully. It says, every child in Canada and around the world from birth to 18 has rights. Rights are what you should have or be able to do to survive, thrive, and meet your full potential. All rights are equally important and are connected to each other. You were born with these rights, and no one can take them away. So the first two articles that you'll see here at the top basically just explains who these rights are for, so that everyone under 18 has these rights. And as I had mentioned earlier, every child has these rights, no matter who they are, no matter where they live, their culture, their religion, their race, their background. All children have these rights that are listed in this document. Article 3 says all adults should do what's best for you, and when they make decisions, they should think about how those decisions will affect you. The government has to make sure and be responsible that your rights are protected. Your family has a responsibility to help you learn to exercise your rights. You have the right to be alive. Article 7 and 8 talk about how you have the right to a name and to an identity, and nobody can take that away from you. Article 9 and 10 explain that you have the right to live with your parents unless it's bad for you. Or if you live in a different country than your parents, you have the right to be together in the same place. Article 11 talks about that you have the right to be protected from kidnapping. You have the right to give your opinion and for adults to listen and to take it seriously. You have the right to find things out and share what you think with others by talking, drawing, writing, or any other way unless it harms or offends people. And this list continues on down the page. And these are all just different rights that not only the United Nations organization, but the Canadian government has promised to all children from birth to 18 years old. And we will look at these more closely, as I said, in the next lesson. So what we're going to do is we're going to investigate the organization that created this Convention on the Rights of a Child. So in the Google Classroom, you're going to create a poster about the United Nations. And you're going to use their website to find information, which is right here. Link is right here. So www.un.org. You will read information in the tabs, and I will show you those tabs in a minute. And the tabs have titles. The first one is called About the UN, and the second one is called What We Do. You're going to use this information for your poster. You don't have to use all of it. Just pick out the most important things you think somebody would need to know about the United Nations. But please put this in your own words. Please do not copy and paste it onto the assignment. Read it, and then put the information in your own words. The most important information that you think somebody would need to know. So I'm going to show you the website really quick so you can get kind of a sense of how to navigate around there to do the assignment. So, like I said, you will, get back. It's not what you're justice. Wouldn't see that either. All right, here we go. So when you type in www.org, the first you're going to see is page in all your language, so English. Tabs that I had first about the UN. The second one called What We Do. So when you click on it, you will know that really well. It's really well broken down for you so that you can kind of, I guess, DM quickly to develop an understanding of what to do. So here it says overview, give a little bit of information, member states and main organizations, and it gives you kind of a pair of information on each. Same with what we do. So on the what we do page, you actually have heading explain what the UN's purpose is and some of the things that they do within their organization. And then below there's a paragraph explaining some of those things. So you don't have to include all these things, but it is important to make sure that your poster has information so that somebody would get a sense of who the UN is and what they do for the world globally. So that's the website. So as long as you're using this tab or this tab, you should be fine. That's where your information for your poster should come from. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me in the classroom or in the assignment or send a Gmail, email if you need to. Good luck, and we'll be chatting soon. Bye.